Did you guys know that Russians, meaning Russians who support Vladimir Putin, the Russian government, and the war in Ukraine, are actually some of the most fragile snowflakes you ever meet in your life, and their feelings are very, very easily hurt? You don't believe me? Today I'll prove it. As a Russian myself, I left Russia about 3 years ago because I did not agree with what the government was doing, and on this channel already talks about why so many Russians support Vladimir Putin today, and why right now a lot of Russians who never even really liked the government of Vladimir Putin or who didn't even support the war at the very start, are now suddenly turning extra patriotic and fully Z. Apart from simple cope when Russians want to feel like they're part of the same team as the government, when they convince themselves that they wanted this war to actually happen because they want to feel in control of their life for the first time ever, and they want to be part of this huge big imperial conquest to restore Russia's might and glory, for a lot of people it's simply because they have the emotional maturity of a child. There's a lot of growing resentment towards the West in Russia right now. A lot of Russians think that everybody in the West pretty much hates them, and a lot of them don't understand why sanctions were implemented. But there's also a lot of growing resentment towards Ukrainians, because a lot of Russians seem to not understand why some Ukrainians might not really like Russians in this moment of history.
Знаете, очень много комментариев со стороны Украины. Я сама там помру, да. Столько гадостей пишут. И я понимаю, насколько мы, вот те, которые живем здесь, в России, великодушные, сентиментальные, милосердные.
And for these people, the fact that Ukrainians don't really like Russians, the people who literally invaded their country, by the way, these people actually see it as a justification for everything that Russia is currently doing. And they say stuff like,
oh yeah, all these Ukrainians on social media, they all hate us. This is precisely why Vladimir Putin is right to do everything that he's doing and why I am safe.
And as a Russian, I think this is extremely childish behavior and y'all need to do a lot better. For example, check out this Instagram reel right here. I decided to message my friend from Ukraine that I was friends with for 10 years. The Russian guy messages, hey, how are you doing? The Ukrainian guy responds in Ukrainian saying, I do not understand you. What do you mean? We've been friends for 10 years and now you suddenly do not understand me. And then the Ukrainian guy comes back in Russian saying, do not write me again, you asshole, that way you will understand it. I'm shocked, you're going completely insane over there. And in the caption here it says, I heard a lot of different stories that even relatives stopped talking to each other and I did not believe them. Until I had to face this exact same thing myself. 21,000 likes on that one. It's incredible, right? I mean, I wonder if there was anything that happened in the last 3 years that made people react that way, right? I wonder what happens. And before I tell you guys my opinion on this, let's check out some of the comments. You have Ukrainians saying, you don't know what happened in the last 3 years? The people who say that this is understandable, are you guys okay? Whatever then, that means that he was never really that much of a friend. I'm Ukrainian myself, but this is crazy. Ukrainians are even attacking their own kind on social media, especially those who speak Russian. What are you so surprised about? So yeah, all sorts of opinions, and there's a lot of Ukrainians also in the comments that are saying, come on, you came in and you destroyed half the country, and what do you expect us to do in response? And look, here's the thing, this is something that definitely is happening in real life. Russia and Ukraine have always been connected, there's always been friends and relatives for people on both sides of the border, and I myself as a Russian, I did know quite a lot of Ukrainian people even before the war, and even though these people knew where I stand, not everybody had the exact same reaction. For example, I had one friend who completely stopped speaking Russian just in general, he chose to not consume any Russian media and news anymore and so on. I have other Ukrainian friends who continued speaking Russian to me in personal conversations. With some people, the relationship kinda dwindled, with some it did not, it only got stronger. And even though no Ukrainians that I know personally told me to go fuck myself, I do know what it's like as a Russian to get hate from Ukrainians online. As a Russian content creator, I do actually have a lot of Ukrainian fans and viewers, but at the same time, a lot of Ukrainians don't really like me and they kinda basically see me as a Russian spy. And the only thing I can really say here is, yeah, I get it. When your country literally gets invaded, when your friends and family are affected, when they, when some of them either die or have to leave because of this war, when people are dying every single day and when you have to constantly live under a threat of attack, I get that you can have some negative feelings and some distrust towards the people from the country that is literally doing all of this. What a shocker, right? I guess during World War II, the Russian people were all very great friends with the regular Germans, right? And they all thought that every German is just a regular person that is not responsible for the war, yes? Okay, sure. And if you're a Russian who is complaining about this, I think the problem here is that when you initially try to talk or message your Ukrainian friend who started telling you about what is going on and how his country is literally getting by your country, the only thing that you had to say in response to that was, what about the 8 years of Donbass or whatever, You just regurgitated Russian propaganda talking points, you called your Ukrainian friends and relatives traitors, and that what they're going through is actually completely rightful, and that Russia is actually about to free them from the Nazis or whatever. Yeah man, really surprising why some Ukrainians might not want to talk to you after that. It's not like you sent them little Russian propaganda garbage as a rebuttal when they were telling you how there's bombs dropping on their fucking heads. You guys think that I'm making this shit up? Let's take a look in the comments. Ukrainian comments. Today is 3 years of war and Russians are still surprised why Ukrainians are mad. And right away a Russian responds with, you've been killing your own for 13 years. Why you're not mad at that? Of course, yes. Listen, you seriously do not understand why this is happening? If you continue talking to this person this entire time without any breaks, and if you let this person know that you are against the fact that your country invaded the country of your friend, then maybe you would get another type of reaction. But if you only message them in 2022, and after 3 years you thought, oh, hasn't my friend died yet because of our rockets? And now you're also shitting on this person publicly on Instagram, it's definitely not your friend that is going insane here. And then a Russian responds with, you've been destroying the Donbass since 2014, and then you say, why are you doing this to us? Again guys, every single time, absolute cinema. Ukrainian says Russians don't even understand how cynical they truly are. And then the Russian responds with, the first strike on Hanoi was done on the 19th of December at 4 a.m. in the morning. The operation was conducted with the method of so-called carpet bombings. And basically he's talking here about like how the US bombed Vietnam and also how they bombed Hiroshima. So again, this right here, this is precisely the reason why nobody wants to talk to you. Do you understand that? When Ukrainians are saying that you people are cynical morons who do not understand that your country is literally waging a war right now, and yet you're mad at the people who dare to be annoyed at being invaded, and your response to this statement is to send a copy pasta about, like, the American crimes in Vietnam and Hiroshima. Basically a copy pasta saying America bad. And yes, America is bad, but that does not give Russia the right to be bad as well. And another Ukrainian says, this is what's called collective responsibility. Complain not to your friend, but to your own compatriots. And then a Russian responds with, also, after the American government has directly admitted to the fact that the Maidan was created by them, and that all of these years they've been spreading Russophobic propaganda funded by USAID, and after they openly admitted to the fact that they provoked Russia on purpose, Russians are still the ones who are responsible? The television has definitely replaced your brain. Again guys, every single time, and I imagine that this right here is the exact type of responses Ukrainians were getting en masse when they were trying to reach out and talk to their friends and relatives in Russia. So you know what? Screw you. Cry me a fucking river, because if I was Ukrainian and I was getting this type of shit when I was literally getting bombs dropped on my fucking head, I would not want to talk to any of you motherfuckers either. And honestly, as a Russian, I still do not. Now, a lot of you guys are probably wondering, why do so many Russians fall for propaganda like this and why do they believe it so hard? Well, a lot of the time it comes down to the way news and facts are presented. A lot of media these days, not only just Russian media, have an agenda, and they use politically charged language in their reporting in order to influence how you think. Which is where ground news comes in. It is a tool that I've been talking about on my channel for a while already. Ground news collects news from all around the world in one place so that you can compare headlines in real time as it happens. And ground news actually shows you the ownership, the factuality, and the political bias of every single source. So for example, here I am on ground news in an article about ICE raids sweeping Los Angeles and resulted in arrests and street clashes. As you can see, ground here shows me that there's a total of 381 news sources that cover this article, and I can actually go down and individually check out every single source and see what different media is saying about this. Now obviously what's going on in LA right now is a very divisive topic, and we can use ground to see the difference in the media agenda. While for example, a lot of left-leaning media describes what's going on as protests, some media uses radically different words. Daily Gazette, for example, points out that ICE agents arrested violent criminals and that those who protested were paid agitators and rioters. This other right-leaning media as well describes what happened as a riot. We can see there's obviously very big differences in how different media is describing and covering what is currently happening in Los Angeles. And ground news allows you to see and analyze these differences and maybe come to your own conclusion. And I also really like the blind spot feature, which actually allows you to see different stories and different things that were either underreported on the left or on the right. And if you guys would like to try out Ground News yourself, then go over to the link down in the description to ground.news/NFKRZ, subscribe through my link and get 40% off of the Vantage plan, which is exactly the subscription that I use. Huge thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and let's get right back into it. So yeah, while not all Russians obviously saying stuff like this, a lot of Z Russians especially think like this these days. These people are the most fragile snowflakes you'll ever see in your life. They can spew hate and support the invasion all day long, but then when they see one bad comment from Ukrainians about Russians, they immediately start crying about racism. Once again, I bet if we had Instagram in the times of World War II, a lot of Russians on the internet would be very civil and nice to Germans online, right? These are the least self-aware people of all time. This right here is another example that I found online. It's a video of a wife of a Russian soldier who's literally fighting in Ukraine right now, complaining about Ukrainians not being nice enough. Let's check it out.
Знаете, очень много комментариев со стороны Украины, да, с жителей. Там, вернется муж в пакете, по частям. Я сама там помру, да, то 5-10. Столько гадостей пишут, столько грязи. Я понимаю, насколько мы, вот те, которые живем здесь, в России, великодушные, сентиментальные, милосердные. Вот я никогда бы, по крайней мере, у меня нет такого, чтобы говорить там про Украину, по пакетам и все остальное, какую-то гадость, вот это вот. У меня такого нету.
This is just incredible, right? Yes, we in Russia really are the most sentimental and nicest people ever, you know? Yes, it's only Ukrainians that are doing this. It's very one-sided. Russians have never said anything unhinged about Ukrainians on the internet, ever. This is obviously complete horseshit. Russians are also going crazy in the comments, especially like young people that are terminally online and irony poisons. These people say terrible things on a daily basis, how Ukraine is not a real country, how it needs to be They call the Ukrainian people pigs and they describe Ukrainian as like a pig language or whatever, and so on and so on. I mean, yes, the most non-racist and wholesome and sentimental country of all time, yes. And by the way, this lady's husband is literally currently at the war in Ukraine, actively participating in the destruction of Ukraine, and yet she has the question, why are Ukrainians being so not very nice to herself and her husband? Do you have like any understanding of cause and effect at all? Are you completely brain dead?
У меня такого нету. И я горжусь. Реально я горжусь тем, что я родилась, выросла в России, я патриот. Война – это такая вещь, где страдают многие семьи, жены, дети, у которых горе. И ни за что бы не захотела я, чтобы кто-то испытал это все. Это очень ужасно.
Yes, I just absolutely love this way of thinking right here. War is awful. War is a bad thing. You know, nobody likes war. You know, the war is just something that completely came on its own, right? The war is just something that happened to us, the Ukrainian and Russian people. Nobody really caused this. We cannot affect it. It's basically like a natural disaster. I mean, this is just the peak of Russian apolitical thinking right here, because yes, we cannot affect this. Even though my husband is literally currently fighting in the war, I do not wish anybody else to experience this. When once again, your immediate family is making people experience this right now. I mean, these people just do not think, ever.
И когда вы пишете гадости всякие про моего мужа, про меня, про моих детей, Бог вам судья. Но война отнимает жизни у многих, как на нашей стороне, так и на стороне Украины. И это боль, это горе. Никому не хочу пожелать такого. Будьте чуть-чуть добрее и не судите. И все будет хорошо.
Не будьте такими злыми! I'm actually very surprised that at the end of the video she did not end with like, and when I see all these comments from Ukrainians, then I get even more reassured that we Russians are in the right and we're doing the correct thing. Because yes, that is pretty much the psychology of a lot of Z Russians right now. These people's overall reaction is, yeah, maybe it was not right to start the war and invade, but you know what? Now after a few years, I've seen enough comments on social media and now I know what these Ukrainians are all about. They all hate us and this is precisely why this special military operation had to happen. And I know a lot of people in my personal life who are like this, who used to be normal and now turned completely Z. And yes, this is just perfect logic. Maybe we were wrong to invade, but the people who got invaded are not being too nice about it to us. So, I guess I supported them, lol. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess, but I do think that you're a piece of shit. And look, a lot of Ukrainians and Russians, despite everything, actually still continue personal relationships to this day. Especially in third countries like countries of Europe or Asia, everywhere that's not Ukraine or Russia, a lot of Ukrainians and Russians are still becoming friends, even getting married and so on. And yes, while a lot of people on both sides are now kind of not letting their guard down as easy or are trying to keep their distance, these relationships still continue. And I have some pretty good relationships with Ukrainian people in my life. Like I said, I do have a lot of Ukrainian friends, and I've even had Ukrainians come up to me in person and thank me for what I do on YouTube. So not all Ukrainians hate me. And living here in Portugal, for example, I have a lot of friends who are Ukrainian, and the simple reason why I'm able to have Ukrainian friends as a Russian is because I am not Z. You know, that is just a very easy prerequisite that exists for you as a Russian if you want to be friends with Ukrainians. Maybe just do not support the destruction of their country, right? I know it sounds crazy, but usually people don't really appreciate when you have absolutely zero respect for them as a friend. And I know that some people might say that, Roman, you're a hypocrite, you're saying that Russians cannot complain about this, even though you yourself actually complained about not being liked by Ukrainians. And yes, you can say these people are partially right, because I did make a video a while back in which I talked about how, as an anti-Z, anti-Putin Russian, there's a lot of pro-Ukrainian like people on Twitter, for example, or just online, who do not really like me or what I do. But look, I do think that I get a bit of a more right to complain here than a Z Russian who literally just supports Vladimir Putin. Whenever I discussed this topic and brought it up, I always made sure to say that, even though I do think that it's sad that a lot of Ukrainians do not like me, once again, I fully understand their reaction given the circumstances, and I am not going to suddenly become pro-Russia or pro-Putin because I got some bad comments from Ukrainians on the internet. However, unfortunately, that is what a lot of Russians are doing right now, and once again, I think that if you support or if you're actively participating in what Russia is doing to Ukraine, then you don't really get to complain about the fact that Ukrainians do not want to be friends with you. And as somebody who supports what Russia is doing, you don't really get to throw a childish fit or tantrum about Ukrainians being mad at you for what Russia is doing, because you support what Russia is doing. Simple math, I know. But yeah, guys, in conclusion, all I have to say is that this is extremely sad, of course, but Z people don't exactly have the most advanced thinking and logic skills, as usual, so nothing too surprising there. They are Z after all. But yeah, guys, I guess that's gonna be pretty much it for today's video though. If you guys did enjoy it, then please make sure to slap that like button on it. And if you guys would like to support my channel, support what I do, go over to the link down in the description and support me on Buy Me a Coffee or become a YouTube channel member. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.